Okay, so I need to tell you about the kind of quilter that I am. My absolute favorite type of quilt, my ride or die quilt, is the one that makes somebody walk all the way across the room, tilt their head and go, how would you even begin to sew that together? It looks so hard. And then I get to smile and say, it was actually really pretty easy. You know what I mean? That's my whole thing. That is my love language in this craft. Quilts that look like you spent 6 months on them, but they actually came together really faster than you would have expected, with less stress than you thought, and with way more fun than people give you credit for. So today I'm sharing 5 of my sneakiest, most satisfying quilting tricks. These are the ones that make your finished quilt look impressive while you're making your progress so much smoother. And if you've been quilting for a while and you're nodding along, drop your favorite tricks in the comments down below because I want to add them to this list. Okay, let's get into it. Trick number 1 is to stop making 2 half square triangles at a time. Yeah, this one changed my life, and I say that with complete sincerity in my voice to you right now. If you have been making half square triangles the traditional way, drawing a diagonal line, sewing on each side of the line, cutting, pressing, repeat, and you're doing it 2 at a time, I need you to just stop. Just for a second, and I want you to listen to me, okay? You can make 12 half square triangles at a time with just about the same amount of effort. Yes, 12. You heard me. You can actually also make 4 at a time, 8 at a time, 12 at a time, okay? Here is how it works, okay? You're going to layer 2 squares of fabric together, draw a grid on the lines of the back, sew on both sides of every single diagonal, and then you're going to cut them all apart. 1 setup, 1 trip through the sewing machine, 12 finished half square triangles that are more accurate and more consistent than what you'd get doing them 1 or 2 at a time. I know. Mind-blowing. Now, it does take a tiny bit more setup and a little bit extra finesse. Yeah, it does. But is it worth it? 1,000%. Because when you sit down with limited time and you need to make 60 half square triangles for a quilt, the math is everything, okay? You are doing 5 setups instead of 30 setups. Your points are going to match and you are going to feel like an absolute genius when you do it this way. Trick number 2 is to change your binding width. Oh, this one sits heavy in my heart, okay? This one I feel quite a bit passionate about, all right? So the standard quilting rule, the one that everybody teaches, the one you've probably heard 100 times, is that you cut your binding strips at 2.5 inches. That's the rule. That's the norm. That's what the quilt police will tell you you have to do for standard quilt binding. And for the longest time, I followed that rule and I did it. And I found binding to be a lot more fiddly and frustrating than I was wanting to do at the finish line of a quilt, okay? When I did 2.5 inch binding strips, the fabric felt harder to manage. The fold wasn't as satisfying or as accurate as I wanted it to be because I had to be very, very precise. And then one day, I just changed it. I cut my binding at 3 inches, and now I will never ever go back to 2.5 inches. Yes, is 3 inches standard? No. Will anyone who receives a quilt from me ever know or care? Absolutely not. Does it make my binding process more enjoyable and easier to manage? 100% yes on this one. Here's the thing that I want you to understand. Quilting has a lot of rules that are really just suggestions that got repeated so many times that they started to sound like a quilting law. Okay, and some of those rules are genuinely helpful. They exist for a reason. They give you good results. You should follow them. But some of them, you're allowed to try it on your own way, and you're allowed to adjust it. You're allowed to find what works for your hands, your machine, your style, and just do that because it works for you and you don't need permission from anybody else. The quilt police are not the boss of you. I just want to put that out there. They're not the boss of you. Trick number 3, chain piecing as a rescue strategy. Okay, so this one comes from personal experience here, and I'm gonna be really real with you on this one, okay? I have a quilt right now, and I love this quilt that I'm working on. I really do. It has approximately, I'm guesstimating, but like 100 million 3-inch squares in it. And it's probably not like a million of them, but it feels like a million when I cut them all out of fat quarters and I organize them into these little block groups. Yeah, can you see what's behind me on the board over there? That's the project I'm talking about, okay? And I thought that I was going to have plenty of time to sew everything together. I had them all laid out in chain piece. You may have heard me mention this in another video or something like that. It's kind of a long-term project for me at this moment, but life got busy, as it does. And those little organized piles, they just sat there looking at me, probably judging me a little bit, okay? I could feel it when I walked in the room. I didn't want the piles to get out of order, so I had 2 options. And option 1 was to push through and finish all the blocks before I am allowed to move on to any other quilt project. Any other project, in fact, or, you know, I guess there's technically 3 options. Let's add option number 2 would be to just pretend that it doesn't exist and hope that it doesn't get messed up while I'm working on things around it, okay? And then option 3 would be to never look at this quilt again and feel quietly sad every time I open the drawer where I just tucked everything away as is, okay, in its messy form, praying that the blocks don't get split up and mixed up, okay? So I chose another option, which I made up, okay, on the spot. I chain pieced everything together, each of the blocks, just enough to keep it organized. It was really quick. It was really fast. I did it in one evening, and here's what I mean. Now, the block that is on the board right here at the top, that's what the finished block looks like. I've only made one of those blocks so far. The other blocks are all the ones that are down here underneath it that are not pieced together yet. They're just chain pieced, and then I hung them vertically on there. I hung them vertically so that I would not lose where those blocks are supposed to be. Okay, yeah, it's a work in progress, and I just ran them through the machine one after the other without cutting the thread so that each block is connected. It's still in order. It's not going anywhere. They're not finished blocks yet, okay? But it's not chaos either, if that makes sense, okay? They are in a holding pattern right now. And so whenever I have 10 minutes, just 10 minutes or whatever, I can sit down and I can press them and then sew a row or 2 together and make actual progress on the quilt without needing a whole dedicated afternoon or like a huge dedicated area of my sewing space to keep those blocks organized. Chain piecing gets talked about a lot as a speed technique, but it is also, I would say, a survival technique for quilters with real lives and real schedules. Use it that way. Because why? Because it works. Trick number 4 that I'm going to share with you today is to sew your rows first, then press everything at once, okay? This is one of those little workflow shifts that sounds almost too simple, but genuinely saves you so much time and energy when you are working on blocks or a full quilt, okay? A lot of quilters, especially when they're learning, they press after every single seam. And I have been a person who tells you to press every single one. And I understand why, because that's what the instructions will tell you in the pattern, okay? And it feels right. And you want your fabric to behave and you want to be accurate, right? I've told you that before and I still believe in that. But here's a different approach worth trying, okay? So all of your blocks within a row together first. Then go and press everything, the whole row, in one pass, especially if you are doing things where you want the blocks to nest in the middle, right? And you want those seams to come together. One trip to the iron, one pressing session, everything gets done at the same time. Okay, so this is when you're working with big rows, okay? Your seams are still going to behave. Your blocks are still going to be accurate, and you just cut your back and forth time in half, okay? Maybe even more than in half. This is one of those things where once you try it, you'll wonder why you were making so many trips to the ironing board before this, okay? Small change, big quality of life improvement. Trick number 5 is to use a design wall, even a fake one, okay? I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about this. Okay, so I want to address something, because when people hear design wall, they sometimes picture like a dedicated studio space with the whole flannel wall and perfect lighting and a professional setup, okay? And sure, that's lovely. Those exist, but it is not required as a quilter, okay? A design wall can be something very, very simple. It can be a flannel backed tablecloth that is hung over a back of a door. Okay, it can be a piece of batting tacked onto the wall in your sewing room. It can literally be a flannel sheet that is draped over some vertical fabric bookcases or something, okay? Fabric sticks to flannel. That's a whole different trick, okay? It sticks to flannel. If you don't find that it's sticking very well, you can use pins. And here's why this matters. The ability to step back and look at your quilt layout before you sew anything together is one of the most powerful tools you have as a quilter. You can audition your fabric placements. You can make better design decisions this way, and you can move the blocks around. You can catch the fabric that you accidentally clustered all your dark fabrics into one corner, because, you know, if you catch that after it's sewn together permanently, it's a little bit more frustrating. And I realize that, like, as my family believes, the floor is the biggest shelf in the house, right? You can do this all on the floor. You can do this at your kitchen table. You can do this, but there is something about being able to hang it on a wall and step back and look at it and see your whole quilt in design form, okay? Now, that's my design wall behind me, okay? I do have a video on how I put my design wall together. If you're curious, it's very simple. It's very, you can even see it's not hung on the wall. It's not hung on the wall because sometimes I do move it because I have calendars and things behind there. And so I move it, I make it work for me, right? The design wall looks like something a very serious or very experienced quilter does in a very fancy studio. But I don't want you to think about it like that anymore. It takes about 10 minutes to set up with a flannel sheet and a couple of thumbtacks, okay? It can be so simple, and it is such a good hack. Do it, you will not regret it. Okay, those are my 5 sneaky tricks. The half square triangle method, the binding with rule break, chain piecing as a rescue strategy, sewing rows before pressing, and the design wall that doesn't have to be so fancy. If even one of these tips today made you think, oh, I could actually do that, that's the win. That's the whole point. Quilting is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to feel good. And the tricks that get you to a beautiful finished quilt faster with less stress, those are the ones worth keeping in your back pocket. I would love to know which one of these that you're going to try first. Drop it in the comments. And if you have a sneaky trick of your own up your sleeve that I didn't mention in this video, please share it down below, because I learn from you all at the same time that you're watching my videos and learning from me. Plus, you as the viewer get to go down, browse all of these comments, and get so much more value out of these videos too, from learning from other quilters who are just like you. Make sure that you are subscribed to my channel on YouTube too, please. I will see you next Sunday. Until then, more quilting, less guilt. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I love you so much. I'm Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com. I'll see you later. Bye.